16th, and Peyton and I just started doing a mushroom hunt. I think we just got out of the truck like 3 minutes ago. And we've already found quite a few wood here because it's been so wet and so rainy. So we thought, well, let's take an hour and get up in the woods and see if we can't find some mushrooms. We knew we were going to find some wood here, but then also have the possibility of finding chicken in the woods. You could find Hericium right now, like bearded tooth or lion's mane. Hen of the woods should be starting to grow. So I told Peyton, I said, keep your eyes open for anything orange. Look at the base of dead trees, any live trees. Really check out any logs for, of course, wood ear and other things. And so far we found wood ear, we found Colibia, we found witch's butter, and so now we just walked up. I can see this from like 50 yards away. See the orange up through the woods. I know you can't see it very well in the video, but this is, of course, chicken of the woods. But if we flip it over, if it's light yellow on the underside, Pay, can you cut off some of that? And let's check it out, because I'm gonna bet that's bright yellow underneath and not white, and that means it's sulfur shelf and not chicken of the woods. Yeah. And it's kind of attached to the tree a little bit too. And so regardless whether it's sulfur shelf or chicken of the woods, it's edible mushroom. Yeah, that one's really on there, isn't it? What do we got there? No, chicken of the woods. Yep, that's white. So chicken of the woods. Good find. All right. So we'll put that in our basket, and we're going to continue on. I think today's going to be a good day. It's been raining for several days. Everything's so wet. You take a step in the woods and your feet just sink. And it's supposed to rain again tonight and for the next couple of days. So should be good mushroom hunting today. Anxious to see what else we can find. Really hoping to find some Hericium today. Here, there's some nasty stuff down underneath there, isn't it?
I'm not putting it.
It's all jellied up. Yeah, I found some over there like that earlier. Come over here looking for this wood ear, and then I spotted this guy here, which is a cauliflower mushroom. I've never found one before, but I mentioned to Peyton, and maybe in the video at the very start, that I'd love to be able to find some hen of the woods or cauliflower mushroom. And I'm 99% sure this is a cauliflower mushroom. I mean, I know it's edible. But then there's another one right there, a cluster. And there's a big cluster about, the size of 2 hands. And right there, that one's almost the size of a volleyball. I don't know if you can see that or not. But, man, never found one before, so I'm super stoked. So, I'm going to get me some cauliflower mushroom, and we'll cut them out, and then I'll show them to you guys. Mosquitoes in my ear drive me nuts. That is a cauliflower mushroom. That is gorgeous. Now, there's lots of bugs in it, the same type of bugs that seem to get in the indigo milkies. Seem to be crawling around on this guy, but that's okay. I'll just soak it in water for a while. I know that you're not supposed to put your mushrooms in water, but I'm a firm believer that, you know what, mushrooms get rained on all the time, and that's what they grow from, is rain. Sorry, I had to swipe a mosquito. And so I don't think it's a problem. I always just set my mushrooms out on the counter and let them dry thoroughly before I package them up or cook them. So I always wind up with a good product. But that is a big old cauliflower mushroom. That other one over there, that one was rotten. You could tell it was browner than the others. It wasn't this bright white, and it was rotting, and you could just smell it too. Just put your nose to it. But these are some awesome cauliflower mushrooms. What an exciting find. That's just huge. So we're going to add that to the chicken of the woods and all the wood ear. And then we've got some hexagonal pored polypores we've been finding, some pretty big ones. They're tender enough, usually on the outside. You can cut the outside like edge off and then eat those. They fry up real nice and crispy, give you a good crunch with some fried eggs or something like that. But they're pretty good, but that's a hexagonal pored polypore. And then I don't know what this one is. I don't mind putting it in there with my edible mushrooms just because I know it's not poisonous, because it's a bracket mushroom and it's a polypore. And so I know that there aren't any like deadly polypore mushrooms, but it's way too tough to consider edible. But I mean, it's just an awesome red mushroom, and I'm going to take that home and figure out what it is. But yeah, that doesn't bother me. I'll just tuck it in there next to some of my edibles. A little bit on us, and we've found quite a few mushrooms so far. We've still only been out here hunting for probably an hour, so it hasn't been very long, but we found quite a few of these little hexagonal pored polypores. I don't know if you can see that guy there. They're orange. I just pulled one off. They're not very big. I know I showed them to you already, but the smaller you find them, the more edible they are, and the more tender. And you can give it a little nibble, like, oh yeah. and so that just breaks right off in my teeth. So before you nibble a mushroom, you need to make sure that you know it's an edible mushroom. But if it just breaks apart like that easy, you know it's going to fry up real nice. Peyton finds something like a mushroom, because I might be like 60 yards away from her and not be able to see her. And I hear, ooh, ooh, ooh. And I know she's got something. So the more that I hear, ooh, I guess that's good. That's bad. Because then I know that she's found some good. No, I'm not talking about you. Let's go see what she got. Oh, what's that? What I just walked over here? What is this? It looks like an oyster mushroom. Well, let's go see what she found, and then we'll come back to that. Oh, pulling ticks off. I think I just found an oyster mushroom over here.
Yeah, I found some really big wood here.
Oh man, it is some good stuff. Oh, you don't drop it all. It is some good stuff. We haven't found any like huge wood here today.
That's like the biggest I found.
You know, stuff like this. It's just like I said, the best time to hunt them is when it's raining, and that's when those are oyster mushrooms, and those are considered choice mushrooms, not just edible, but choice. So we will definitely take those home. I think I found a thorn mushroom here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Well, let me turn it so you can. But I found 2 of them, so I threw the other one right there in my bucket. And I'm going to take them home and get a firm ID. Sometimes these brown mushrooms that are gilled are very difficult to identify. But it's the right size. I believe a fawn mushroom has a cap size that's about 2 to 4 inches. They do grow on wood. And I found this one growing right here on this log, and I went ahead and pulled the log up with the mushroom on it to see if the mushroom was attached to the log or if it was growing out of the dirt right next to the log. That makes a really big difference. And it was attached directly to the side of the log, and you can see, I mean, it's still got like part of that wood, and it's even after I brushed it off with my paintbrush right there. So I'm just going to leave that there. I'm not going to cut it off, because when I get home I want to make sure that I can remember that I found it on wood. You know, some people will carry wax paper with them to be able to, you know, bundle up their mushrooms in wax paper, and that transports the mushroom really well. And then they can carry a permanent marker and label on the wax paper where and when they found it, what tree they found it next to. Did they find it in dirt, wood, clustered, you know, singly, so they can kind of keep track of the details. But I don't have too awful many mushrooms. I think I can remember that. So far today we found what I believe are these fawn, or aka deer mushrooms. We found a lot of wood ear. We found a lot of hexagonal pored polypore. And then I've got, of course, some of the oyster mushrooms right in there. And then in Peyton's basket, we've got the cauliflower mushrooms. We've got the chicken of the woods that we found at the start. I'm sorry, I have trouble seeing this smartphone screen. It's pretty bright out, even though it's overcast and starting to rain. And we've got a lot more wood ear in there. So she wanted to carry the big basket, so she got the big load, and she's got to carry the heavy load. So your form's getting a workout yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Those cauliflower mushrooms are pretty big. So hopefully we find some more. We're going to start heading towards home now. Got a lot of work yet to do today, so fun time is coming to an end quickly. Spent the morning bluegill fishing with Colton, and he and I caught a bunch of big bluegill on crickets. And I've already filleted those up this morning. I guess we came home with about 23. So got about, a gallon and a half of fillets off of those. I know, 21 bluegill, gallon and a half of fillets. That's how big those bluegill were. They're ridiculous. So it's been a good day of nothing but fun and playtime. And we're going to have to do some work this afternoon. So just got home and just got my mushrooms all cleaned up and on the counter, and they're drying out. So let's take a look at them. Okay. Got a lot of wood ear right here. You can see that I've got everything all cleaned up and laid out to dry. Now, these 2 gilled mushrooms that I think are fawn mushrooms or deer mushrooms, I just lightly kind of brush and rinse the top. You don't want to wash a gilled mushroom because the gills all mat together, especially one that has really tight gills like this. They'll all mat together and it'll make it hard for it to dry out and hard for you to get a spore print. And since I really want to identify this mushroom before I do anything with it or even consider eating it, I want to make sure that I get a good spore print from it, so I'm not going to mess up the gills by washing it. But your polypores, I think, are fine to wash. You know, they're all going to dry out real nice. You just got to lay them out on a tea towel or some paper towels or something like that. And then, like the wood ear, I'll let it dry for an hour. I'll flip it over, you know, a few times and just let it dry out, and you know, it'll be perfect then to go ahead and freeze just like it is. It seems to keep really well just by freezing it as is, or you can dehydrate it and then reconstitute it in some lukewarm water for about 20 minutes, and then it'll basically regain the majority of its texture and its shape, and you can cook with it at that point however you want to do it. And then you can see the cauliflower mushroom. I cut it apart, and here's the rest of it over here. So quite a bit of cauliflower mushroom. I cut it apart and washed it all out. Of course, there were some little flecks of leaves in there. I found a couple of beetles, but that was it, just 2 beetles in the whole bunch, so I thought that was pretty good. Now, definitely, since you're harvesting, you know, food from the forest and not from a grown in a greenhouse or something like that, you're going to have bugs on some of your mushrooms. That's okay. You just, you know, rinse them off. It's not a big deal. But everything cleans up real well, just like the fish that I caught this morning. You know, yeah, you got to clean them. You got to get a little bit bloody, but in the end, you're left with some beautiful white fillets, all nice and clean and ready to fry up. So, woods here, and I'm just going to cut it up real thin. You can see the chicken of the woods is a beautiful mushroom. I've already cut this up a little bit, but it's a chicken of the woods because it's pale white on the underside. The sulfur shelf has a brighter yellow color to it, and it's yellow on the underside, and it's I'd say it's a prettier mushroom than a chicken of the woods. But we're just going to slice this up real thin, and then we'll cut it up a little bit more, and we're going to saute it in some butter. We're doing nothing at all healthy with this. You're just cooking it up for goodness. Alright, so I took this off the heat just a second ago. Got some butter in there. Just going to slide it all in there, and let it cook. Heat back up. Get some butter on all that stuff. Might ought to put just a little bit more butter in there. Just coat that with some butter. I'm going to let that saute just a couple minutes, then we'll sprinkle some garlic powder over it, and we're going to gobble it up. Our mushroom cooking up. I've never cooked it up before, so I was kind of anxious to see how it'd cook up. I put a little bit of butter in there, but a lot of moisture with this mushroom. Now, I didn't give it a whole lot of chance to dry out, though, either, that said, because I was really anxious to cook it. So I'm just letting the moisture cook off. So as soon as that moisture cooks off, it'll be done. And then the chicken of the woods mushroom, I already pulled off the heat, and Peyton already ate some, and I already ate a bunch. And it is good. I want to tell you what. So that's a good mushroom. I made the mistake before. Sorry, I'm talking with my mouth full. Made the mistake before of overcooking the chicken of the woods mushroom, and it can be a really dry mushroom if you overcook it. So be careful you don't overcook it. Make sure you take it off when there's still a little bit of moisture in the pan. When you cook it, cut it into thin strips so that you know you've got it cooked and you're not eating the mushroom raw. But definitely give it plenty of butter, and I mean, it's just going to be delicious and you're going to enjoy it. Up here, pretty much eaten all of the cauliflower mushroom I'm going to eat. I probably had a bowl about like that full. I know they say that you're not supposed to eat very much of a mushroom whenever you eat it for the first time because you don't know how your body's going to tolerate it. I just couldn't stop eating it. That stuff is good. So I just kind of kept going. I'm sure it'll be fine. If I get an upset stomach, it'll be from the amount of butter that I put on it, not from the mushroom. But anyway, I've got everything about packed up here and ready to put away. Got to get out and do something productive today. Went fishing all morning. Went mushroom hunting all day so far. And so I'm going to try to get outside and do something productive. I got to brick up a mailbox, so I'm going to get started with that and hopefully get quite far before dark. Anyway, we're going to get these things packed up. I like to keep strawberry containers because they are porous. They have all the holes in the container. And I have family members that bring all their strawberry containers to me. I guess this one was a grape container. But they all work great. You don't want to put your mushrooms in a Ziploc bag in the fridge. They just don't seem to keep very well. But you can see I've got the rest of my cauliflower mushroom. I got my chicken of the woods in there. I've got my fawn mushroom. I'm sorry, not fawn mushrooms. My oyster mushrooms. All of these things I'm 100% certain of the identification on. So I'm confident to put those in the fridge and then consume those outright without identification, or a spore print rather. Of course, all my wood ear that I found today. And now when Colton and I went out looking for wood ear last, I bet we harvested about 3 times that much, maybe 4 times that much, that I right now have dehydrated and in the freezer. So Wood ear, we probably won't hunt for wood ear a whole lot longer this year because I'm going to have enough real soon to keep me through the entire year. And then I am not real positive on the identification on these three mushrooms. This is an oyster look-alike mushroom that I found on wood, and of course you can see that it's a gilled mushroom, but it's really fuzzy on the top. So I don't know what that mushroom is. I'm going to look it up in my books, but meanwhile I'm going to get a spore print on that guy. So I like to use the black and white paper, and sometimes I'll just take some black construction paper and just glue it across, you know, some white printer paper and call it good. But we're pretty short on paper, so I'm kind of trying to just be a little bit more conservative about it right now. And then, I don't know what that red one is, but it's beautiful. I hope it drops some red spores, and I have a really cool looking spore print. And then those are the fawn mushrooms that I found, and I am pretty sure they're fawn mushrooms because they were growing on wood and they have pink gills, but I'm going to get a spore print on them nevertheless. And then over here, these hexagonal pored polypores, they still have some drying out to do, and so I'll keep flipping those until they're dry, and then we'll get those put away. And yeah, so I'll be ready to go tomorrow morning. Pretty sure it's eggs and mushrooms. And tonight, more mushrooms. See you guys.